ensure the academic success of all students, provide leadership and direction to improve the overall learning environment in our classrooms, schools, and district, including the health, safety, security, and happiness of students and staff, direct and support actions, programs, and activities which reduce the impact of poverty on our students, their families, and our community.
Thank you. Director Beck, would you please read the mission and vision statement?
Yes, the mission statement. Enhance each student's abilities by providing a quality education enriched by our diverse community. And the vision statement. Education that challenges conventional thinking, prepares all students to compete in a global society, and inspires our students, parents, staff, and community to answer the question, what if?
Yes, tonight we have Casey Wyatt with us. He is the school administrative manager at Jefferson Elementary School. He's in the stead of Cammie Montoya, who is on leave right now. She had a daughter. Good, so we wish her well. We have school administrative managers in many of our schools, and they assist the principal with many of the leadership matters, and the fact that we have confidence in Casey to take over while Ms. Montoya is gone is a tribute to him as well as to the positions themselves. So, Casey?
Much appreciated. Thank you for inviting us here today, and I appreciate your time in allowing us to showcase Jefferson. I don't want to take all the credit though. Ms. Stewart is also my counterpart over at Jefferson's. Hi, Ms. Stewart. Hi, Ms. Stewart. Is the projector? No. Okay. So, a little interlude music going on there. So. Excellent. So, last year when I was here, I had a whole slew of young men and young ladies that were with me to showcase some of the various extracurricular groups that we had going on at Jefferson. And this year, we felt that the culture was really the take on what I wanted to kind of bring to the forefront this evening. So last year, we spent a great deal of our time at BSAT focusing on our mission statement at Jefferson. We designed it to be to inspire lifelong learners, one student, one family, one generation, one day at a time. And it was something that we really took to heart. We took a long time determining what the most effective way to phrase this was for our feeling and how we come into the school each and every day. When we presented that to the staff, we did a survey at the beginning of this year to really gauge the interest as well as just the overall belief in that. And as you can tell from the survey, the majority of our staff felt it was very true, that they believed in our mission, and that their efforts were extremely vital to making that mission a reality. And I would venture to say that within the past year, that's really what's become apparent at Jefferson. And it wasn't always that way, but being that it was something that we really felt important and undertook that and have really readdressed the culture in the building, and it's starting to shine in a lot of different ways, and that's what I'm highlighting tonight as our showcase. So the tipping point, this summer at the BSAT conference over at St. Ambrose, we met as a BSAT team, huge, large room, a lot of folks in there talking about, what are our challenges this year. And so we put up our student data, and it was by teacher. And one of the things that came up was a teacher's data that was showing 17% proficient at the end of the year. And someone else said, if that was my class, it would really feel like a punch to the gut. And the room kind of went silent for a second. And then someone else spoke up and said, you know what? We should all be feeling that right now. That should be a punch to the gut for everybody in this room, not for just that one teacher. And it really started to be apparent that all means all needed to be the foundation for us. We needed to believe that every single student, every single teacher, every single classroom, every person in that building is accountable for each other. And that really embodies what our culture is about right now at Jefferson. Not only that mission statement, but this idea that all really does mean all and nobody gets left behind. We are accountable to each other as well as our students. So we sat down with those thoughts in mind and created some goals. What's that? At BSAT, yes. Building Student Achievement Team. I apologize. So that's like our leadership within the building, who determines what the interventions, what the goals are for the staff, where we're heading. They're overseeing kind of everything that way. So as a BSAT team, we sat down, and these would be grade level leaders, some of the interventionists, coach within our building, leadership, myself, principals, everybody within the building that really has a say and needs to help to make these decisions and bring them back to their teams. So coming out of last year, 2016, 2017, we could see where our accuracy and fluency goals had fell, and we felt that status quo, we can add 10% to that and say this would be good enough for the year, but it just wasn't good enough at that point. And we really set those standards high, looking at 80% and above accuracy that our teams were looking at for reading, as well as 50% or above for fluency, basing on what these students were coming in with this year. At the first set of FAST data this year, at the end of the first quarter, you can tell that those goals were really starting to be reached. Some of the growth that was being taken from 2016 to 2017, huge growth in between our grade levels. After looking at reading, we then went over to math, and we said the same exact thing. Is what we're seeing good enough? You can see huge scores in some of our lower primaries, but as you get up into those upper primaries, it just wasn't good enough yet. But with that all means all attitude, these ideas, this culture of supporting each other, can we attain some of these high goals of bringing our students up to 90%, to 60%, and in some cases, grade levels coming in at 16%, can they reach 50% or above? And what we're starting to see is exactly that. Our lower primaries they're overachieving. It's amazing to see what they came back in with and the instruction that they received at the beginning of the year, and really demonstrating that with some of these assessments. We haven't seen as much yet with our upper primary, but all means all, and we haven't stopped with that. And we are supporting them in determining each and every week at our SIT meetings, at our BSAT meetings, leads and coaches, what are we going to do to wrap around these grade levels? How are we going to support these teachers? What do students need? Which students specifically are in need of some of these interventions to address their holes and gaps? Some of the celebrations that have come off of that. This year, 7 students just at the end of the first quarter, and we're excited to see at the end of the second quarter, 7 students who were persistently at risk throughout the entirety of last year have already exited Tier 3 this year, based on the interventions they've been put into place. Of SPED students, 3 students have already met their goal areas and exited, which is huge for special education students. It's amazing to see some of the things that are taking place right now. Furthermore, all the way to the left, our first grade is ranked 4th right now of the entire district for their A-Math scores. So out of all the schools within the entire Davenport district, Jefferson, which is typically down in the bottom 1, 2, or 3 of these students, is up in the top 4 right now, especially for first grade. And we're starting to see some of that similar growth across the entire school. So why is this happening? Well, I've touched on it a little bit already, but number 1, attendance. Jefferson has a later start time this year. We start every single day at 8:30, and we end at 3:30, and that helps to accommodate our families. Up at the top, our goal at BSAT was to reach an average daily attendance of 85% or above. Right now, our current data as of yesterday was 94.1% attendance. We are seeing enormous growth with this, specifically with tardies. Some of the things that I attribute to that are the later start time, as I mentioned, special transportation, getting these students busing to and from school and working with families. Our Families Matter liaison is in constant contact with these families, making sure that their needs are met, and whatever we can do to support getting these students to school and on time is exactly what we'll do. We have a life skills coach that is dedicated specifically for tardiness and attendance, as well as a system for behavior, and we also have many attendance incentives set up for these specific students. What are they after? How can we convince them this is important to them and important to us to get them to the school every day? Down at the bottom is one of the most significant pieces of data regarding our tardies. We saw a 30% decrease of students with tardies. So from 322 students that had those tardies to 226 from last year. The overall tardies decreased by 63%. We had almost 1,700 less tardies this year, just in the first quarter. That number just really stands out to me as being apparent why we had to make this change for our students as well as our families. Additionally, the systems that are in place. At the meeting, Dr. Tate mentioned that myself as well as Ms. Stewart have stepped in for Mrs. Montoya in her maternity leave absence. The systems that our principal has put into place, whether that's our weekly CTTs, the class-wide interventions, one-on-one regular data meetings with every single teacher, setting monthly goals with individual teachers, establishing a fast process that goes from the BSAT to the CTT meetings directly to the teacher, and then setting up some of these intervention systems that focus on small groups as well as specific skill-based interventions. These things are what are mattering to our building right now. And if it weren't for our principal setting up these systems in place and feeling so strong about them, our building would not be seeing the success that it's seeing right now. But as you can tell from the data that I shared, we are definitely seeing some huge successes at Jefferson, which is why we wanted to bring them to showcase tonight. So why is it? It's all means all. And that's what it really comes down to for us at Jefferson. You'll hear it each and every day at every single meeting. Somebody reminds us that that's what it's really all about. We are accountable to each other as well as to these students through our mission, through our vision, as well as this idea and this revisiting of our culture. So thank you for your time tonight. I appreciate you allowing Jefferson to be showcased. Any questions, comments?
Director DeSalvo.
Very, very wonderful data that you shared, by the way. Very, very impressive. This seemed kind of strange to me, and maybe it's no reason behind it, but the stats that you showed, your upper grades were really, really strong in reading and not so strong in math. And it was almost the flip for math and versus reading in the upper grades versus the lower grades. Is there any?
So for the past 10 or 15 years, Jefferson's kind of been on a different trajectory as far as reading's concerned. We were an Edison-based school for quite some time and had a lot of different curriculum opportunities for our students. And I think that plays a big piece in where our reading was. It's part of providing the foundational skills and pieces like that we felt were necessary and how we were able to address those concerns. For math right now, the big push with the Envision curriculum going out into the primary schools is this idea of number sense and really creating a foundation for the students to build from there. So if you see that K-1-2 piece, there were many of us that had piloted the Envision curriculum back when these students were in kindergarten and first grade. And now that they had that familiar foundation and they're starting to build on that, we're seeing that for that K-1-2. The 3, 4, 5 students don't have that similar background. We had everyday math, and then we kind of had this interim of unknown for almost a year where we kind of had to design our own curriculum pieces and put them into play. So what we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of this growth, but a lot of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade have these gaps that we're going back and starting to fill. Like, okay, why are they missing these pieces? And it's just an unfamiliarity with the Common Core as well as with the new curriculum. But it's a good question.
Your energy is enthusiastic, and I can just imagine what you're doing with those kiddos at the school. So thank you very much. Great presentation, and keep up the good work.
Any further questions?
I do have a couple questions here.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain the one generation piece of the family students day at a time?
I love that you brought that up. We have some staff that, from what I understand, a lot of folks that work at Jefferson wear it as a badge of honor. And there are a lot of folks throughout the district that have spent time in Jefferson with our students. And there are a select few that have really stuck around for 20, 30 years. And sitting in on the meetings and designing this mission statement and hearing them talk about, I had your mom, I had your aunt, I had your, siblings, and just really seeing the effect that they've had through the generations within specific families. I mean, you hear last names come up and they know everybody throughout the entire family. And the original mission statement was, one student, one family, one day at a time. And they said, we want to have this generational piece in there. It's like, but it doesn't flow as nice. But it was so necessary, and I could not agree more. Having that in there, the more that we read that and feel that and own that that's where these families are at, and that our idea of this all means all doesn't just apply to the school, but just to our community as a whole, and really helping these families to pull out of this cycle of poverty. And it's that generational piece. Just it means that.
Kind of makes sense. Acronym CTT.
So those are our weekly. We do 2 biweekly CTT meetings that are like our collaborative teacher time. I was trying to think of what's the other name, PLCs that they call them in other schools. So they're called different things, but really it's our teacher teams that come together as well as our coaches that come in, and some of the mentoring pieces might be in there. Mrs. Montoya sat in on every single one. Dr. Tate was gracious enough to come and spend some time with our 5th graders on Thursday, their team early in the morning from, I believe it was 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock each week, and just kind of see how they run. It's something where they address, everything. They bring up specific students, the interventions, the grouping of students, what's working in your class, what's not working, how can we really wrap around this grade level or these classrooms to make sure that we are addressing this idea of all means all.
Thank you so much for
No
that.
problem.
All does mean all. Any additional questions? Okay, thank you so much, Director Nathan. And so,
Measured in, yes, sir. At what point will they be proficient? Mm-hmm. The FAST assessments are what we base everything off of.
So there is no
To be sure, I'm not sure if it's. Say it's right.
For the district. School based. But I'm talking about the across the
Mm-hmm.
So I understand the year's growth. But at some point, are you still going to be able to be proficient?
And that's the idea. Absolutely.
I know this is somewhat new right now. So, how long has this been going on?
This specific process, probably about 1.5 years, 2 years right now that we've worked with these CTTs. Not long enough to really gauge, how long is this going to take? The idea that's always thrown out is trying to make that 1.5 year growth. So if you have students going into 4th or 5th grade that are 2 to 3 years behind on some of these standards, you might not see some of those pieces picked up until the very end of their primary years, or even then further into the intermediate or high school years, which, the data is not very positive looking at some of that. So that's why it's so important that we are able to address it now at that primary level.
What about our lower grade schools? So the fifth grade, but many kindergarten still start out.
Absolutely. Yep. Coming in with their peers. Yep.
So if they're starting out in kindergarten, is there a rate that's that way? And again, we're talking so short term. Look back on the life I assume the methods that we do is showing that they work well.
And that's, yes, to make not only that year growth. Yep. To not only just make what the expected growth is, but then to kind of step it up above that by specifically looking at the skills and things that I mentioned. If a student's coming into 2nd grade and they're deficient in some sort of maybe a subtraction skill or something, and we identify that, make sure that we have an intervention put into place, and then roll that and monitor it with that progress monitoring piece. So that's what the CTT meetings would be, to talk with those coaches and things. But I don't know that I could put a hard and fast number to if X student starts here, then they're going to be caught up by this specific day and time.
I guess what I'm looking for is at some point, the school as a whole will be able to put these time
To feel that? And I feel like that AMATH chart where you kind of saw where our 1st grade was placed at that 4th is where we're starting to see that. And I feel like our students, especially in the lower primary, are becoming much more competitive within the district and nationwide, just based on them being offered and provided those foundational skills and that consistency with the curriculum and the standards as well. So I think we're going to see definitely more of that over the next 2 to 3 years, just watching those K1-2 students start moving into that 3, 4, 5. And we'll do what we can to address the needs of our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders now. But I think we'll start to see much more competitive students at that K1-2 level as the years go on. No problem.
Any additional questions? Okay, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
We appreciate your time.
For student board reports, please.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. So 6 of you here tonight. Thank you. Happy New Year. Appreciate having you here. And final start Wednesday. So I guess some of you may be bailing out a little early tonight to get ready for them. Connor, why don't we start with you and just go right down the row?
Okay, so Central doesn't really have a whole lot going on, but we just started a new round of Junior Rotarian, so I am doing that. We have our mock trial team starting up and doing their preparations down at the courtroom downtown. Their basketball is not doing so great, but girls, they're on the rise. Couldn't do much worse than the last couple of years, so now that they're finally getting better, hopefully they can gain more interest from the community. And our autism pre-sale shirts are almost done. That wraps up Thursday, and we have finals.
All right, so there's just a few things going on at North. Last time I was here, we talked about the charity week that North was putting on through the business departments, and that was very successful. They raised $4,000 in that 1 week, and like a lot of people in the school got into it and involved. And then when we made our sandwiches, we donated over 1,000 sandwiches, so that was really cool. Our show choir season is getting started. So they have their spaghetti dinner this week, and then big dance is coming up for the next coming weeks. So that's all for me.
All right, so West has quite a list of things, per usual. So, like you guys said, finals are coming this week, so we're kind of going crazy, but good luck to all of our students. Mrs. Ray and Mr. Kinty, our National Honor Society advisors, accompanied their students to the Christmas party at the Handicap Development Center before break. Clearly, their hard work raising money and buying and wrapping presents for the residents was appreciated. And our gala dance will be held on January 27th.
For sports, boys basketball has been doing pretty well. I think we're like halfway decent in the MAC. So it's like North Scott and PV and Bettendorf is up there, and then there's like us. So, but our last game we played Muscatine and we beat them 51-37, and we'll be facing Clinton tomorrow at West.
Our Worthless Campaign student group meets every Thursday after school, and the students are prepared to make a difference during the legislative session, which started today, and Maddie is a huge part of that, so we're very appreciative of what she's done. So, Show Choir had their first performance last weekend. It was our official kickoff for our season as well, which will be long but good, for sure. Known as Dinner Theater, this is the biggest fundraiser behind the competition that the DCSD schools host that's called Great River, downtown. That goes directly back to the show choir travel, clothing, and music expenses that West has. West's three First Tech Challenge teams have officially begun their season for 2018. Good luck to them, as they have quite a lot to live up to from last year's performance. And the boys' swim team is experiencing fantastic growth, with the guys dropping time in 14 races at their meet against Burlington. We wish them luck at their upcoming meet on Thursday. And that concludes our report.
Thank you. Larry, anything?
No, not much really. Ever since coming off a break, the rooms were a few classrooms were really cold. That's about it, I'd say.
Thank you for that report.
All right.
Thank you, students. We do appreciate you being here. We know you have a lot of things that will occupy your time.
We really do, and it's always nice to hear what's going on in the schools from the student perspective. Thank you. Any board reports? Director DeSalvo?
Just one thing that on behalf of the school district, I would like to offer condolences to the Carty family. Al Carty passed away right before the holidays, I believe it was, right after. And he had always worked at Brady Street Stadium, and obviously Pat Zamora, whose daughter was married to one of Al's children, so there's a big history there. So our condolences to the family.
Any additional? Director Beck?
I have just recently toured two schools, the Creative Arts Academy last week and Keystone Academy this morning, actually. And I just wanted to say they're both doing fantastic work. It was really impressive. The Creative Arts Academy project-based learning was really, really interesting. The kids were very happy to share what they were doing. And then at Keystone today, it was really nice to see some kids doing really well. I saw some great line procedures this morning and some great greetings from some second and third graders. So I just want to give a shout out to those two schools. And as I make the rounds to more, I'll give shout outs to those two.
Thank you so much for that. And also, in the line of condolences, the board would also like to send our sympathy to the Chisholm family. Gene Chisholm passed away, and he's a retired employee. And also to the mother of Bill Sneeden, Luella Sneeden. Her services, I want to say, are Thursday in Delmar, so we would like to send our sincere condolences to those families along with the Carte family. Any open reform requests? Open forum is a time for members of the community to give input at a board meeting regarding school district issues or concerns. Individuals who want to speak should fill out open forum requests and give it to the board secretary prior to open forum. The board will not act on any issue presented during open forum if it's not published as an agenda item. The Iowa Open Meetings Law prohibits action of any issue that is not on the agenda. The president will set the amount of time allowed by the individual to speak during the open forum. The board asks that no charges or complaints be made against individual employees of the district or community during open forum. Remarks that reflect negatively on the character or motives of any person will be called out of order and seen as though there are none. We will go forward with the consent agenda. For upcoming events, could Director DeSalvo, could you read those?
I'd be happy to. January 10th at 7 p.m. at the Central Performing Arts Center, there will be the Mid-City graduation. January 15th is a holiday and the district will be closed. January 16th at 5:30 p.m. there's the LSEAC, the Local School Improvement Advisory Committee meeting here in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. January 17th at 5:30, number 2 committee of the whole for the January committee for the whole for January here in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. January 22nd at 6 p.m. regular meeting ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. February 5th, 5:30 committee of the whole in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. February 7th, 4 p.m. policy committee ASC Executive Boardroom. February 12th, 6 p.m. regular meeting in the ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. February 19th, annual Get on the Bus trip. That should be February 20th. I think February 19th is a Sunday. Get on the Bus trip. Somebody pull a calendar. I think it's the 20th. February 20th, 5:30 LCX School Improvement Advisory Committee, ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. February 26th at 6 p.m. regular meeting ASC Jim Hester Boardroom. I would like to add one thing on there. February 6th is Dr. Tate's hearing in Des Moines.
February 19th was Monday. Yes. Okay, thank you, Director DeSalvo. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Madam President, Vice President.
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the consent agenda as written.
A second. I call for the vote. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts.
Yes.
Director Beck.
Yes.
Director Mayfield.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. We'll accept the consent agenda as is. May I have a motion to approve the bills?
Madam Vice President.
Yes. Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board accept the administration's recommendation for adoption from the bills for the bill of lading periods from December 7th, 2017 through December 13th, 2017, special release, and December 14th, 2017 through January 3rd, 2018. Resolved, all claims presented to the board having been duly certified as correct by the secretary, reviewed by the administration and board members, and they are hereby audited and allowed as just claims and warrants drawn on the treasury for the several amounts. Further resolved, the payment of claims and salaries be approved as presented for the periods of December 7th, 2017 through December 13th, 2017, special release, and December 14th through December 14th, 2017 through January 3rd, 2018, with the following voided electronic check. Check number 11227, payable to Handwriting Without Tears in the amount of $55.25, void and replace.
Thank you. May I have a second? Call for the vote. Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Potts? Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Mayfield? And my vote is yes. Thank you. Vote pass. The consent agenda and bills. No, I'm sorry. Okay, the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Just one thing to report in addition to what the students told us. This last Saturday, we had 99 Davenport Community School District students representing our intermediate and high schools go to the Southeast Iowa Band Association conclave in Fairfield, Iowa. While they were there, 38 students were selected after day-long auditions to become part of a band to play on Saturday, January 20th. There were 19 intermediate and 19 of our high school students. In addition, 4 of our intermediate band students were selected as the best players in their audition center. So, good news, and that wraps up my report.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Tate. Now we have items requiring action. The public hearing. May I have a motion for the approval of the state date or the start date for the 2018-19 school calendar year?
Madam President, Vice President.
Yes, ma'am.
I move to approve the start date for the 2018-2019 school calendar of Thursday, August 23rd, 2018.
May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We will now hold a public hearing for the proposed start date of Thursday, August 23rd, 2018 for the 2018-19 school year as published in the Quad City Times on Friday, December 22nd, 2017. Anyone wishing to speak on the item, please step forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing as none, I declare the public hearing closed. Is there any further discussion on the matter? And call for the vote. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Mayfield? Director Potts?
Yes.
And my vote is yes also. Motion passed. Approval of policies. May I have a motion?
Madam Vice President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the policy committee recommendations for the following policy: 305.01 School Food Service Program, 101.02 for media communications, and 202.02 for consultants.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Director Beck?
Yes. So, while we were meeting on, last week about the, 305.01, school food service program policy, we discussed some changes to the, middle school or intermediate school, basically what they could have in the event that there was not money on an account. And I believe Mr. Scott may have had a suggestion at the end of that meeting, so I wanted to double check with him before we carried on.
I believe the current way it's written, where there would be one breakfast and one lunch, and I strongly wanted you to consider going for the 2 lunches, the cost of the 2 days, because of the amount of time it takes for parents to get money put into the system to make sure it's effective the next day.
Okay. Are there any, I'd actually like to ask Ms. Carrington if she can comment on the feasibility of that, if there's any issues.
Yeah, I don't really see any issues. It just, I mean, it increases the amount of debt that we would then be collecting. So,
okay.
I don't see issues. There is an online payment system that will go in on the same day parents put it in. But if they need to bring check or cash to school, that does allow them extra time. So,
okay. Are there any other comments on this policy?
So you would need to amend this to say 2.
Yes.
If you want to do, okay.
I just wanted to gather all the discussion. How does that work? Do we have to vote in an amendment first, and then we can vote on it?
We have to amend the commissioner motion.
Okay. But I don't think I can make the amendment. I can. Okay. Well, then I'd like to make an amendment to change the language so that it is two lunches for intermediate school students, so that they have 2 days during which time they can acquire funds. In the paragraph that says intermediate school students, it says shall be allowed to charge up to 1 breakfast and 1 lunch. We'd like to change that to shall be allowed to charge up to 2 lunches. And I believe that would include the cost of a breakfast as well.
No, if you were going to amend it to do both, you would need to put 2 breakfasts and 2 lunches, or you can leave it 1 breakfast and 2 lunches.
I think 2 lunches is probably sufficient, or would you recommend, you know better than I would?
I would refer to Mickey on the standpoint of how well are they informed of when they are in the hole. So they would be informed.
They're informed the moment they go in the hole, because a message comes up on the cash register that says you don't have money. They would be informed at that moment that you don't have sufficient funds.
So theoretically, then the student would be able to charge 1 lunch that day and then potentially another lunch the next day, and maybe not have breakfast.
That would be correct. And they could inform them that you will not be able to have breakfast tomorrow.
Okay. Oh, I need a, okay.
I get a, Director Potts, before you, did you have something to add before we get the second for this amended portion of it?
Oh.
Okay, we need a second. Was somebody second the amended?
Second.
Okay.
Director Potts?
Isn't it true, though, that the lunch ladies at the cash register routinely let kids know how many lunches they have left? I know my experience has been that as the kid's going through the lunch line, once he's under a certain number, they'll say, you got 2 lunches left, you got 1 lunch left, you got no lunches, or you got 4 lunches, you got 3 lunches, you got 2 lunches.
That is
so
correct.
It's not a lightning bolt when Fred gets up there and finds out he's out of money.
Correct. That is correct. They start verbally reminding them when they have about an $8 balance in their account. Mm-hmm. So they remind them for up to 3 days before they go negative.
Is there, do you have a suggestion for changing it? Do you? Okay. All right. Is there any other comment?
As I reflect on what I'm hearing, I would say that we're probably better off just saying a certain amount of dollar rather than a breakfast and a lunch and coming up with a number, because students may want to use it for, how would the lunch line receptionist know to, well, you had the breakfast and now you get the lunch? They're just going to look at the total number of dollars.
We made it generic in the policy so that when we set up the how much the balance is, we can do it year to year for what the cost of a lunch and a breakfast is, because our lunch prices change from year to year.
Okay.
So that's why we made it not a blanket statement.
So the statement really refers to the fact of that amount of money will be allowed to be overcharged. Whatever the total of a cost of a breakfast and a lunch, that total cost will set what they can go into the hole.
Correct.
Not that they would get one breakfast or one lunch because they could decide to just got it. So one breakfast and one lunch. That's fine.
I think since it's been amended, we have to unamend it. He's suggesting that we stick with one breakfast, one lunch because it's an amount. Mr. Potts?
So then wouldn't you want it to say, instead of a dollar amount, just simply say they can charge the cost of 2 lunches?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Then as that changes, you don't have to go back and alter the policy.
And it could be a breakfast as well.
But they could utilize it however they want.
Okay.
So the 2 lunches is just, I like the way Mr. Potts said that.
Director
Excuse me
Potts?
just a second.
Yeah.
Mickey, when do you need this approved? Is it something that can wait? Because it sounds like with the discussion, we're almost needing to almost take it back. Because are we going with the dollar amount or 2 meals?
I think we figured out the solution. Up to 2 lunches.
The
Or
cost,
the cost of up to 2 lunches.
Up to 2 lunches.
Mm-hmm.
So the lunch is at $3.60. Is it?
It'll be whatever the lunch is when because it changes from year to year.
Okay. So whatever the cost of 2 lunches.
For example, right now in K-8, their lunches are $2.50, so that would be $5. So, and then if meal prices change when it says up to 2 lunches, it would increase up to the amount of whatever that is, and we set that behind the scenes.
Okay. So then, Director Potts, could you please make an amendment to the wording? You're amending the amendment. Oh, we have to vote on the original amendment? Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so it will be a friendly amendment that we're voting on.
Yes.
Okay. So on the friendly amendment, the amendment to the amendment, Director Beck.
Yes. We need Director Potts to state it for us.
You need to take it from the policy, exactly, the wording from the policy. Look at the policy and tell me exactly what the wording is and how you're changing it.
Right here, right here.
We need to have that in the record.
Okay, it should say intermediate students who do not have sufficient funds shall be allowed to charge up to the value of 2 lunches.
Dr. Tate, did you have something? Oh, okay.
And then the allowed meal charge up to $10 should be stricken.
That's actually for elementary school. We're not discussing that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a different section.
Gotcha.
So the amendment up to the value of 2 lunches.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. That's, you sure?
Yeah.
You have amended for the cost of 2 meals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Under, I think, clarification, under the intermediate school
Under the intermediate
section.
school only, yes.
Okay. Are you okay, Director Mayfield? Okay. So for the friendly amendment, we'll call for the vote. Director Beck.
Yes.
Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Mayfield. Director Potts. And my vote is yes. Motion pass.
Because
take that out and do them all together. Take this vote out. And
it should have been separate from the other policies. Okay.
Okay, is there also a motion to approve the other 2 policies?
Yes, Madam President, Vice President, I move to approve the policy 101.02 media communications and 202.02 consultants.
Is there any discussion on the other 2 items?
I second.
Who's second? Okay. Okay. Okay, Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Potts,
Yes.
Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director DeSalvo,
Yes.
and my vote is also yes. Thank you. May I have a motion for approval of 28E contract?
We approved 30501. We amended it, but we didn't approve the policy, did we? Did you? Did you? Okay.
Can I make a motion to approve 305.01 as amended?
Okay. Okay, call for a vote for the motion to approve. And seconded by Potts.
Okay.
And the vote, Director Beck,
Yes.
Director Potts, Director Mayfield,
Yes.
Director DeSalvo,
Yes.
and my vote is yes. Thank you. Okay, now to approval of 28E contract. May I have a motion?
Madam Vice President,
Director DeSalvo.
I move that the board approve the administration's recommendation for the 28E contract for the addition of 2 SRO school resource officers for 3 years as presented.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Director DeSalvo.
So I'm sorry, Bruce. My computer's broken. Otherwise, I'm stealing Bruce's. So the dollar amounts written in here, they're for the 3 years total?
Are you looking under financing?
Right.
It's 3 years.
Okay. And I when I was reading this, it says it was entered into already in November. So we're just approving it now?
Well, they had to approve it, so it just had to go through all the processes.
Through them first, and then to come to us. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they started back in November.
Okay.
Yep.
That was all the questions I had for now.
And I mean, we don't have the officers identified yet. They've got to be sent to school and so forth.
Sure. Okay.
Were there any additional questions? Dr. Tate?
I would just like to mention this is $600,000 from the Bechtel Trust that we got to do this.
That's amazing.
Thank you. We'll call for the vote. Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Beck?
Yes.
Director Mayfield?
Yes.
Director Potts? Yes. And my vote is also yes on this. With the next, for the approval of the long-range facility plan, Director Johansson is wanting to be on the line. He's not going to be able to do it. Okay. Thank you. Okay, we'll give you just a second to check to see if Director Gosa also had shown some interest of wanting to be on the call. Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to approve the long-range facility plan?
Madam Vice President?
If I would like to make a motion to postpone, but I don't know if this is the right time to even ask. I need your guidance on that. Shall I wait till after you? Okay. All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Madam Vice President?
Director Beck?
I move that the board adopt the administration recommendation for approval of the long-range facilities plan project framework as presented in the SAVE and PEPL project lists.
Second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Now is the appropriate time. I'd like to make a proposal that we postpone this till we have all our school board members, or at least potentially have them here to make this vote. I think it's very important that we all be in on it and support it. So I guess I need a second on that.
Well, actually, I will second that due to the fact that Director Johansson was hoping to participate by phone, and he's away or ill and obviously not able to get to the phone. And Director Gosa is away, and he had also showed some interest in this. Director DeSalvo?
I would just, what kind of impact is that going to have on you, Mike, and plans and contracts and stuff? I know.
I believe the only consequential impact I could think of is the next item on your agenda, the acquisition of that building on 38th Street, as Dr. McDonald has another buyer queued up should we not proceed with the sale, and she is closing her practice, retiring, and was planning on getting the revenue in February. So perhaps a delay till the 22nd wouldn't matter, or perhaps it would. I can't speak for her. I put the money in the budget so you could see how that would fit into the larger framework. That could be an impact, and I can't say for certain. She may be willing to wait. I spoke with her today.
So the long-range facilities plan, when we approve that, are we approving the budget?
No, you are approving only a framework, a kind of
Right.
a plan that shows what could be done
Right.
in which sequence in what year.
Right.
Each project is individually approved by the board. Should you decide to go ahead this evening and approve the acquisition of the McDonald building, that probably wouldn't even actually occur until after the 22nd,
Okay.
because we'd have to prepare a purchase and sale agreement and bring that back to the board and so forth. So what you would be doing tonight is giving us approval to negotiate a final price and prepare a purchase and sale agreement that would be brought back to you. So if you were to not approve this item and to approve the other item, the actual purchase and sale agreement would come back to you probably on the 22nd. So you would have another bite at that apple, come to think of it.
But it wouldn't hold up it wouldn't hold up necessarily our discussion of that property.
Would not.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Tate, do you have something?
I do, and I know Mary's trying to get somebody on the phone, but you need everybody here. You need them face to face. This is too important. This is going to go for a long time, and I'd much rather see it postponed rather than trying to do this by phone.
Director Beck.
I just wanted to make a comment that if we're still able to vote on the purchase of the McDonald property, even if we postpone the framework, I don't see why we wouldn't want to postpone until everyone's here. That would make more sense to me.
Okay. How does everyone feel about that? We can vote on 9.04 and postpone 9.03 until the 22nd. Or vote for that.
Vote on having it at the next meeting. Either one, but we need both. Postpone indefinitely, or even just vote to have it on the next agenda, or the next meeting.
Okay, Director Potts. Director.
Basically, I'm going to say what I thought you were going to say.
Okay, Director Mayfield.
We'd be postponing basically the long-range plan.
Correct.
To vote on that.
Correct.
That does not mean that we can't vote on the purchase of
Correct.
that building. They're
Correct.
two separate entities,
Right.
even though one's within the plan of the other.
Right.
So it doesn't, we just heard that it doesn't hold up the process for
Right.
buying that building.
They just need a date certain. You've made the postponement motion. So postpone that bill.
The next meeting.
January 22nd. Okay, so may I have a motion to postpone the long-range facility plan vote until our next regular meeting of Monday, January 22nd? A motion?
So moved.
Okay. A second?
Second.
Is that? I call for the vote. Director Mayfield. Director DeSalvo.
Yes.
Director Potts. Director Beck.
Yes.
And my vote is yes. Thank you. And 9.05, may I have a motion for the approval of the purchase of the McDonald property?
Ms. Vice President?
Director Beck.
I move that the board approve and authorize the administration to negotiate for the purchase of the property at 525 East 38th Street, Davenport, Iowa, for a price not to exceed $265,000.
May I have a second? Thank you. Call for the vote. Or any discussion? Director DeSalvo?
I would still like just to have it noted that I feel very strongly about making these properties equal amongst the high schools, and I don't feel that we are there. I'm trying to get word on what the North facility is at right now. I fear it's not in very good shape, even with the work that may have been done. There are no restrooms down there, as you know. You and I have discussed this many times. So I would like something. West has a pretty good facility. I know they had some weather damage last spring, but I believe that was fixed. So I feel if we're going to invest this much in the one high school, I think we need to do it in the others. And I would just like that to be considered as we vote on this and think of other plans in other schools that need that.
You will note in the long-range plan that the North Athletic Facility budget has been increased to $720,000, I believe it is, to better align with the requirements that the athletic directors agreed upon.
What was that, Director DeSalvo?
Well, I know that North is the athletic facility. Theirs is going to be the first one built, but I don't know the location that they had decided if that would allow for a restroom or concessions down in that right place. So that was just the question that I had, or that we were talking about. So.
Was that Mr. Maloney? Was that?
There will be restrooms, yes. The location is not determined yet. It's just we only in the long-range plan will have authorized the budget that will prompt the architect to actually start the design development work with the staff.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Does that answer your question? Okay. I call for the vote now. Director Beck?
Yes.
Director DeSalvo?
Yes.
Director Potts? Director Mayfield?
Yes.
And my vote is yes, and motion passed. For items for discussion, we have policies, and I will turn that over to you, Director Beck.
Sorry, not very good without a mouse. So in our most recent meeting, we were discussing the safety policy, 401.33, the use of protective equipment, which stated that all employees of the district shall wear the proper clothing or use proper protective equipment when specified by the district for safety purposes, up on the board here. And Mr. Maloney and the policy committee recommended removing this second paragraph of the policy and inserting it into our broader policy on safety. So, which is 401.36, and then deleting what is left. And so I bring that for discussion. The impetus for this was discussion of OSHA requirements and how well we are, as a district, are training people on the hazards and what the difference between health and safety are and security, and those are kind of variable. Mr. Maloney, do you have any comments? Sorry to bring you back up here.
During the discussions with the policy committee, it was the staff's recommendation that this kind of standalone policy on personal protective equipment would be better suited to be in the broader policy on safety generally. We also had a variety of discussions, and only today I forwarded some suggestions for the broader safety policy to the to the policy committee members. But this particular revision is separate from that discussion, and we felt that having a standalone item on personal protective equipment when there's a much broader policy that would be inclusive was superfluous in this case, and that it was better fit into the board's broader safety policy. And that's what is before you in the discussion tonight. The broader revisions to the larger safety policy, only today I sent some suggestions forward, and that's not under discussion tonight.
Right. We decided, thank you for saying that much better than I could. We decided that we would revisit the safety policy, the broader safety policy, at a later date, but this was a good way to sort of condense them for now, as we move forward on this bigger project of revising the general safety policy.
Any additional comments? No questions? Director Potts? I'm sorry.
It makes sense to me.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Maloney.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Administrative reports.
Just one, probably 45 minutes long. I'll get everything ready. Nothing, Madam President.
Board request. Well, it's 7:05, and I feel like we need to sit here for at least another 55 minutes. Well, with that, I move that this concludes the meeting for the Davenport Community School District.
Second.
May I have a motion?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
Second. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded.